Emily Bronte was born in Thornton, Yorkshire, the fifth of six children. In 1820, the family moved to Haworth, where Emily's father Patrick worked as a perpetual curate. It was in this environment that the Bronte sisters' literary talent flourished. During their childhood, after the death of their mother, the three sisters and their brother Branwell received a gift from their father of a box of toy soldiers, with which they amused themselves by imagining the most varied adventures. Thus was born Young Men, the first narrative cycle of the Bronte's boys. Emily was a gifted woman of character, reserved and taciturn. Important influence in Emily's life and works was Tabitha, the governess hired by her father to make up for her mother's absence. In the fall of 1845, Charlotte found one of Emily's notebooks of poems. She was so impressed by the verses that she immediately thought of publishing a volume collecting the poems of all the sisters. The following year, the volume, signed under a pseudonym, came out under the title Poems by Currer, Ellis and Acton Bell. Only 2 copies were sold, but Ellis received flattering reviews. In January 1837, publisher Newby agreed to publish Ellis and Acton Bell's novels, Wuthering Heights and Agnes Grey respectively, but they were not published until December in the wake of the huge success of Currer Bell's Jane Eyre. Set on the moors of Yorkshire, the story follows childhood and adult life Hinchcliffe, an orphan adopted by a wealthy family, who struggles throughout his existence to live according to the lifestyle of his benefactor. Hinchcliffe is in love with Catherine, his adopted sister. The love between the two developed from childhood, but over time, due mainly to the class differences between them and the constant attention of Hindley, Catherine's brother, the feeling gradually loses its sweetness. Set on the moors of Yorkshire, the story follows childhood and adult life Hinchcliffe, an orphan adopted by a wealthy family, who struggles throughout his existence to live according to the lifestyle of his benefactor. Hinchcliffe is in love with Catherine, his adopted sister. The love between the two developed from childhood, but over time, due mainly to the class differences between them and the constant attention of Hindley, Catherine's brother, the feeling gradually loses its sweetness. The situation degenerates when Catherine, with an ankle injury, is sent to spend 5 weeks on the Linton family estate. Here, Catherine, who is forbidden to have contact with Hinchcliffe, meets Edgar, with whom she becomes infatuated and whom she decides to marry. Unlike Hinchcliffe, Edgar belongs to the same class as Catherine and has gentle and refined manners. Yet it is Hinchcliffe whom Catherine continues to love. Learning of Catherine's engagement to Edgar Linton, Hinchcliffe sets out in search of fortune. He will return to Wuthering Heights, a wealthy man, but consumed by a desire for revenge. He then decides to enter into a relationship with Isabel, Edgar's sister, despite having no feelings for her. Catherine, devastated by jealousy, dies giving birth to a baby girl, and her death throws Hinchcliffe into the darkest despair. But it will be only after several years and other tribulation that Hinchcliffe dies in turn, and the two lovers can find themselves as wandering spirits in the moors.
Close your eyes. Oh. Open your mouth.
How could you not think of me all this time?
It's easier, it's kinder. It plagues my soul.
You've treated me so badly, Kathy.
But I came and I was nothing.
You broke my heart. You killed me.
I'll never leave you. Ever again.
Wuthering Heights was published under the pseudonym Alice Bell and was thought to have been written by a man. Since then, it has been read by millions and has spawned endless film adaptation, including an Hindi and Japanese film, as well as musicals, ballets, and even anime. The film taken into consideration is Wuthering Heights by Andrea Arnold in 2011. This film remains very faithful to the plot of the book, but there are also some differences. It gives a lot of space to young actors such as Kaya Scodelario as the young protagonist Catherine and James Awesome, the first black actor to play Heathcliff. Finally, Isabella Linton and Edgar Linton are played respectively by Nicola Barley and James Norcote. There was very little dialogue as opposed to the book. However, much space is devoted to the moorland around the boys and especially to the raw harshness. This version is limited to the first part of the novel, and, in my opinion, would be more too cold taken from Wuthering Heights because it shows us many facts that don't now exist in the book. Within this work, we can find the presence of several themes: the importance of the violent and unspoiled landscape of the moors, a character inferred from the Romantic movement, loneliness, a way of losing oneself in the self. The author draws the protagonists lost in their inner selves, haunted by their irrational and violent loves. Loneliness is not a conquest for these characters, but a way of getting lost behind their own shadows. Passion overrules. Convention and no real sense is given to social climbing and the distinction between servants and masters.